Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be sharing with you some books I really want to finish before the end of the year. So recently I've been doing some planning for a tag video that's to do with the end of the year. Any guesses what that's going to be? And it got me thinking about some of the books that are on my TBR that I haven't got round to reading yet, but ones that I've been wanting to read for a really long time. So I thought it would be fun, obviously, to make a little TBR of 5 books that I just really want to read before the end of the year. And I, of course, wanted to share those with you today. So the first one I really want to get to is Small Island by Andrea Levy. Now this one, even though I'd only just bought it in like maybe February or January of this year, it's been on my radar for a really long time. So I feel like it's been on my TBR for longer, and that's why I just really want to read it. It's also one that I've been massively interested in for a really long time. It was recommended to me by 2 of my best friends who have both read it and absolutely loved it. But not just that, the synopsis of it just feels like a very me book, and I'm just so intrigued. And despite its size, it doesn't really overwhelm me. I'm still like super excited to get round to reading it. So this one is a historical fiction novel set in 1948 in London, so post-war London, and it follows, I think, maybe multiple perspectives, but the main one being Queenie, who takes in some Jamaican lodgers much to her neighbours' dismay. I do believe one of them was an RAF fighter in the war, and then his wife comes to visit, and that's all I know, but I have a funny feeling it's going to be very much sort of friendship and relationship driven, and I love that about books when it's character and like very, focused on people's relationships with each other and that relationship dynamic. Obviously the historical fiction aspect of it I find really like intriguing because I haven't read a book set in this sort of era before, and also from flicking through it I do think it may possibly follow 2 different timelines, either that or, like I said, multiple perspectives, and I love stories told in multiple timelines. There's just so much about this that I'm really intrigued by. And also I'd recently been doing this thing where I was organising my TBR cart by books that I was most excited about reading to the ones I was least excited about reading. So the ones at the top were the ones I was most excited about. And every single time I did that, Small Island was like towards the top. It was always on the top shelf and like towards the ones that I really wanted to read. And that of course tells me something. So despite, like I said, the size of this, I really do hope I can get to it before the end of the year. I think because of its historical fiction, I might read it towards the end of the year when it's like autumn. But yes, so excited about getting around to this one. So this next one isn't a book, it's an author, and this will come to no surprise to so many of you, but it is of course William Shakespeare, because I need to read some more Shakespeare plays. I feel like I've really abandoned him this year in terms of, obviously last year I had my challenge, so I tried or attempted to read one every month, and I just feel like I missed that so much. So the 2 that I've got on my TBR are Richard III and The Winter's Tale, 2 that like I'm familiar with, so that shouldn't really put me off, and they are quick and easy reads. But I feel like I need a specific time to read Shakespeare just to like really take it in properly. I felt like I had more of that last year. I don't know if it's because I was working part-time, so I maybe had a bit more time to myself, and this year it's been full on in terms of things towards the beginning of the year, things changing, me now working full-time. But I feel like at some point, maybe when the weather is nice and it gets to that sort of time, I can maybe sit in the garden for a few hours and just devour one of these. I think that's maybe what I'm waiting for. But yes, very much miss Shakespeare and having his plays in my life. So I would love to read at least one, obviously, before the end is out. The next one on my list is part of a series. I did say I wanted to finish this year as part of my reading goal to complete some series, but as the months are going on, I'm just not reaching for this, and it's kind of worrying me a little bit because it's a quick read, so I don't really know what's putting me off. But that is Death Note book 5, which has volumes 9 and 10 in. I do believe after this one there's only one more book, so so 2 more volumes. But obviously this is manga, so I can just speed through it really quickly, and when I do read them, I love them and really enjoy them, but I don't know why, there's just something about this. I think I've left it too long since I read the last one, so I'm a bit confused as to what happened in the last one. So I don't really know what to do about that. I might read a synopsis somewhere before I pick this one up, but I really need to like stop avoiding it and just pick it up and speed through it, so it's like I finish it and it's done. I think it may also be because the last one I read I didn't enjoy as much, and it's kind of gone on a really weird tangent that I wasn't expecting. So yes, I'm hoping that this one obviously is slightly better. I might read some reviews or just have a look at the rating on Goodreads, and that will make me feel slightly better about picking it up. So this next book is literally one that I've been saying for years that I wanted to pick up and read, and I actually think I got halfway through it, but I just never carried on, and it's a massive booktube favourite. So many people that have read this have said that I would really enjoy it. Even my mum said that I would really enjoy it, and yet I still haven't picked it up. And I have actually had 2 copies of this book, but the first one, after my mum read it, I unhauled it just because I tried to read it and then my mum had kind of ruined the book a little bit, and I wasn't a big fan of the cover. And then my mum kind of got gifted this one and read this edition, and I was like, okay, keep that one for me because it's really pretty, and then hopefully I'll finally read it. But the book is The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, and as I've already said, it's like one that's much loved on BookTube. A lot of people mention this as like some of their favourite books. A lot of people reread it. And I do believe it's historical fiction, as it's set in Barcelona in 1945, and it follows our main character Daniel, whose father takes him to the Library of Forgotten Books, and Daniel gets sort of drawn to and picks up a book called The Shadow of the Wind, and then it just sort of follows Daniel on this journey of trying to sort of locate the author and his other books, because there's like no trace of the author or his other books, so it's a sort of like a quest for Daniel to try and find out. There's also a sort of a love interest from what I remember, but it's just really beautifully written, and obviously the setting is really wonderful, and it's a book about books. So obviously people who love books written about books. So I have a funny feeling that this one is going to be possibly a favourite of mine when I do read it, and maybe that's why I'm scared to pick it up. Like when I look at it and when I read the synopsis and when I talk about it, it just feels like a very me book. So I don't know why I haven't read it yet. I think it's because I did read, like I said, half of it and then I put it down and just like never picked it up again. But it's been long enough now that I don't really remember, so it'll be like reading it again for the first time. This is another one that I think I will probably read in the autumn months, towards the end of the year, because it's historical fiction, and when I did first try to read it, it was the middle of summer, it was really hot, and it just felt really wrong. So yes, hopefully I do end up picking this one up towards the end of the year. And that brings us to the 5th and final book that I really want to finish before the end of the year, and again this is one that probably won't surprise a lot of you because I mention it a lot. I've tried to read it a few times now, it's been picked by TBRs for me, there's just so many things that have happened with this book and I still haven't read it or even made that much progress with it. I did also think about, for Do the Thingathon, making that week dedicated to reading and finishing this book, so I'm really hoping that Ashley towards the end of the year does a round 2 so that I can focus the week on reading this book. But the one I really want to finish is The Illumination of Ursula Flight by Anna Marie Crowhurst, and this one was gifted to me by Victoria, and I think I feel really awful for not having read it yet because it's one that not a lot of people have read. I added it to my wish list because of Victoria's review on it. It just sounded amazing, and she said that it was one that she thinks that I would really enjoy. I added it to my wish list and then she gifted it to me, and I just feel awful that this beautiful, amazing book, and it sounds fascinating, has just sat on my TBR for a year and about a month, and I haven't even, like, I have actually started it. I did read, I think maybe like 30 pages, and I can tell that it's just gonna like pull me into the world, and that the writing is just gonna like, it's gonna, the world building and everything. Why haven't I read this yet? This one is another historical fiction. It's set in the 17th century and follows our main character. I do believe it's a sort of coming of age story, and she wants to become like a playwright, I think, either that or something to do with theatre. And I don't know, I feel like there's going to be loads of other things, but there's also script extracts in it. It's gorgeous. I love reading plays. It's historical fiction. There's just so many things about this that I know I'm going to love. But I think, and I've said this so many times before, I've been waiting for a specific time to just sit down and like devour it. And of course, life happens, so you never or very rarely have time to do that. So I really need to let that go, and just, you know, put it on a TBR for a month and just, you know, dedicate like a week or 2 weeks just to reading this. So there is my pile of the 5 books that I really want to read before the end of the year. Yes, some of them are kind of big in size and a bit daunting. 3 of them are historical fiction, and I love historical fiction, but again, I think I'm just waiting for the right time to read them. But fingers crossed I can get these finished and enjoy them as much as I think I'm going to. Let me know in the comments one book you really want to finish before the end of the year. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon in my next video. Bye!